That's the first question. Yes, sir, in the back. Stand up, introduce yourself.
My name is Sam Kramer. I was wondering, you said that to have better global connection, you need to outsource things like rock and roll and blues and positive culture. Do you feel that modern culture and things like the way our pop culture has turned into and things like reality shows have just become a face for America, actually hurts it negatively?
If you go to India, no, if you go to Afghanistan, they play their own brand of rock and roll music, which derives from Indian rock music, which actually derives from Western rock and roll music. I don't think there are easy fixes. And you know, when I was growing up and I was listening to Western radio stations, the world was different. Our background, our foundation is very similar, but so you cannot transpose my experience directly to a world that has expanded so much. But the bottom line is, I still believe that the freedoms and the freedom of expression rock and roll music expresses is really something that will make a difference in the world. Let me tell you this. Take Iran, for example. You don't know how much Iranians are listening to our culture and watching our television, taking risks for their lives to connect through the airwaves with the culture that we share. Will they adopt it automatically? Will they fully adopt it? No. But the message inside what I call soft power is so strong that I think it does make a difference. We just have to be smart about that. I've been talking to the Rock Hall of Fame and I told them, I have no idea why you have not taken the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and Museum on the road in the world. It has such a strong message about your past, about African American heritage, about European heritage, about the Latino heritage. You can't imagine. So I believe that there is a strong message out there and we have to use it. If we're smart, we're able to calibrate it to the needs and interests of the people all over the world, then I think it still is important. Now, I've had on this whole media thing, it's interesting because you have this dilemma of free speech versus cautious message to the world. Dallas, have you ever seen Dallas, the series, the TV? It's such a long time ago. I mean, your generation, and don't try. It's not important. Don't even look for it because it's crap. It has done more damage to your image in the world than anything else I know. Cheap, unsophisticated, a very narrow-minded message about what America is. And America is not like that. So what you have also done is you have created an image of America in the world through cheap media, and because basically it's all about business. You are going to pay a lot in order to fix that image. And that's where you have to get smart. Your generation will be responsible to change this. It's possible, it's doable, but be aware of the fact that you are now faced with your own creation because of the freedom of speech, because of the free market. By the way, I think we too are kind of responsible for this. I mean, we allowed this go unchecked, and not in terms of censorship, but we did not, and hold hands with you to make sure that there is also the presentation of the America, the America that I have gotten to know, the America that has depth, America that is serious, the America that is creative. So, this is seriously a situation where I think America has a deficit. And you have to figure out new ways to send. But I think rock and roll music is definitely one of the tools to fix the problem. It's not part of the problem. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay.
Next question, please. Yes, in the last row there. Please stand up.
Hi. I wanted to ask you, how did you become an ambassador to NATO?
Well, that was how I became an ambassador. It was because I was stubborn, and I didn't let go when people said, it's not going to work and Hungary will never be member of NATO. You know, it's kind of interesting because in '92, I was the first Hungarian diplomat ever to be put to the job of working with NATO. And I remember on the first day, I walked into the office of a certain Mr. John Krindler, who was, well, he was up there on the Olympus. And, you know, it was kind of, I was supposed to be humbled and very respectful walking into his office. And he was very pompous and, you know, what do you want? And I said, my job is to get Hungary into NATO. And he says, sir, that's going too far. And 4 years later, I'm the Hungarian ambassador, brand new member of NATO. And John Krindler walks into my office and he says, sir, I'm sorry I ever said what I said. Which means that you have to believe in the target that you want to meet. You have to believe that you are doing the right thing. Why I became an ambassador is because I stuck to this. Because when nobody else believed, not in Hungary, not in the United States. And suddenly, and your professor will definitely confirm, suddenly history has changed the equation because of the war on the Balkans. Hungary suddenly became very important, and we raced ahead to make ourselves useful. And suddenly NATO, the United States and the rest of NATO realized that, that the new countries, the newcomers, can make a contribution. And if you want to ask me how I became an ambassador today, it was through hard work. And I was never going to be the ambassador to NATO. So the answer is, it's hard work, fate, maybe history. Okay.
Next question, please.
Does that answer your question? Thank you.
Basically, how did really your early life under Soviet rule sort of shape your more current life of now? You seem to be more in tune with freedoms and stuff like that. You seem to be more in tune with like the American way of life, where as before under Soviet rule, it seems like things have been a little more restricted. Like, how did that sort of shape, what you do now?
Hungary was never a communist country. It was always a country under oppression. And, we were all part of the system. If you want, there was one system, we were all part of it. I was part of the system. But there were only a handful of communists, really, who actually believed this system will ever last. So what you do is, once you decide not to leave the country, and you know what, it's not that easy to leave your country. I mean, when I look back, there were many opportunities and times when I should have just left the country. And so I was not alone in looking towards the West for a solution. And so what shaped my life is really that we were looking how to get out, for a way to get out of the system every single day. Whether you were part of the system or whether you were a dissident, the majority of the population was really looking for a way out. And I think if you read books today about what happened in the 80s, there were some people within the system like Nemeth, the prime minister, and he was, if you want, formally he was part of the system, but he was not a communist. Well, I was very close to Mr. Nemeth, and which means that I think in the mid-70s we already knew the system was broke, And I think by the early 80s, we knew that you could not fix the system.